If you've been following this channel going into this season for the Warriors, then you know that I have been completely on the money in terms of what kind of season they would have, predicting that they would win 60 games, that everything has been set up the way that I have been pleading for this team to set up for the last 2 years. And it's finally happening. And if you remember what I said, going into the Celtics game, that gauntlet of a schedule, the Celtics, the Thunder, Cavs, Mavs, and the Grizzlies tonight, well, let me just show you real quick what I said. The Warriors have some monster matchups coming up. Here are their next 6 games. The Celtics, who are 7-1, the Cavaliers, who are 8-0, Thunder, who are 7-0, followed by the Mavs, Grizzlies, and the Clippers, who the Warriors lost to the last time they played. There's been a lot of talks about, can the Warriors actually compete against some of the best teams in the league? That's been the biggest question mark. A lot of people have doubts, saying that they've been playing lesser competition and whatever they're doing right now is not real. Regardless of what happens in the next 3 games or so, to try to illegitimize what this team has done on both ends of the floor and fundamentally changing everything about who they are from what they've been the last couple of years. It's just people not wanting to come to terms with the fact that the Warriors are back, because everybody just, for whatever reason, wanted this dynasty to be over. Klay Thompson is gone. The big 3 is broken up. Steph Curry is 36 going on 37. Draymond is old. Blah, blah, blah. I actually feel good about going up against all 3 teams that are coming up. And my general prediction is that over the next 5 games, they'll probably go something like 4-1. And if they do that, they'll be 10-2 on the season, which will mostly be on par with what I wanted to see from this team in the first 20 games. What I wanted to see from this team in the first 20 games is something like 16-4 or 15-5. And I feel like they're on trajectory to do just that. I mean, not to brag too much, but am I good or am I good? Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want the most elite coverage of the Warriors. Alright, enough with the self-love and compliments. Obviously, going into the Grizzlies game, we all knew that the Warriors faced another obstacle in the sense of Melton getting injured and having to find a new replacement starter at that shooting guard spot, which has been a sensitive topic since the beginning of the season. Now, as you know, I made a suggestion that the Warriors could potentially start pods, even though a lot of people did not want to see that. A lot of people were over Potts and they just didn't want him to get any opportunities anymore. What you have to do is think about this situation in terms of how the Warriors have been operating as an organization and what they think of Potts, right? They have very high hopes for this guy, and whether he can meet those expectations or not, you can't just throw him to the side and pretend that he doesn't exist anymore. Listen, if you follow the NBA very closely for many years, then you know that there are a lot of players, especially sophomores, who kind of come out a little slumpish to begin a season. I mean, shoot, did you see how Victor Wembanyama started the season, for crying out loud? He had a 6-point stinker by the 4th game of the season. And 3 of his first 4 games were completely underwhelming. And a lot of impatient people were like, this kid is not what we thought he was gonna be. Oh, he's not ready yet, blah, blah, blah. Now look at him. Listen, when you've seen certain intangibles out of players in their first years, you have to take that into account and realize those certain fundamentals that you recognize aren't going anywhere. This is why I had been fighting for Trace, believing that he will turn his season around and start to play much better as the season progresses, because we've already seen it last season. In terms of his possession-by-possession defensive ability, being able to protect the paint on a regular basis, and just generally being a pain in the neck. Even if he gets scored on, he's always there for the contest at the end of the day, and he's conditioning other players and other teams into realizing that this is who he is. So over a long period of time, knowing that he's going to be there, he's going to build this reputation where they know that he's going to be there, and it's not going to be an easy time going to the basket. And these things are always better recognized as the game continues forward into the second half, when the game gets more serious, when the defense steps up another notch. And we've also seen these things from Pods last season as well as a rookie. There's a reason that the guy had been a complete and utter positive, and it's because he covers a lot of intangibles. He play makes, he rebounds, he takes charges, he dives for loose balls. And you have to understand something about that style of play is that it is very sacrificial to the player's body. Not everybody plays with that caliber of grit. These things don't always show up on the stat sheet. And at the end of the day, they're what I like to call winning plays. And I think from an overall standpoint, Pods has been pretty good from a defensive standpoint. It's just that over the, let's say, the past few games or so, he's had a few lapses in terms of getting beat. And because he had also been struggling offensively to start this season, now fans are really fed up and they're just like, oh, just sit this guy. We don't want to play him. So, of course, if I say, oh, we should put him in the starting lineup, I think he's a good fit with what they're trying to do in terms of Steph Curry being off ball and the Warriors trying to play motion offense. Well, Pods fits better in that regard in the starting unit, even more so than a guy like Moody, which is why I wanted to see him in the starting lineup over a guy like Moody, despite the fact that obviously Moody is a more explosive scorer. That's not all there is to the game of basketball, and that's certainly not all there is to the style of play in which the Warriors and Steve Kerr like to play the game. And we saw it tonight. Steph Curry went back into passive mode. He played 11 minutes in the first quarter and took like 2 shots and made 1. He had 2 points by the end of the first quarter. This is what we do not want to see from Steph Curry. But because the Warriors are so deep and they're so connected defensively, they're able to get away with it more this season. And I have to say, I am just so moved and impressed, and just it's hard to believe that this guy is 36 years old. 4 steals tonight, took 2 charges, just sacrificing his body, playing intelligent basketball without compromising the defense by gambling or anything along those lines. Steph Curry has been an utterly elite 2-way player this season, and it's just been a joy to watch. Now, having said that, obviously they did not start Potts tonight. They started Lindy Waters, who you guys know, again, if you followed this channel, I made a whole video about the potential of Lindy Waters in the starting lineup. Now, since I made that video, I've seen a little more of Waters and his defense, and I haven't loved what I've seen from him from a one-on-one standpoint, from a recovery standpoint. And you know me, it's first and foremost, can you play connective defense, and can you play it as elite as possible? Number 2, are you a sound player and make correct decisions when you're running a complicated offense like the one that the Warriors like to run? You have to be very skilled in a lot of different ways if you're going to be successful in this offense. You just can't have a bunch of holes in your game. You have to be a great passer. You have to recognize what's going on the floor, be very timely, and stay connected both offensively and defensively. And obviously and preferably, you have to be able to shoot really well. Be able to time exactly when you need to make cuts, when you need to set a screen. It's not just about knowing these things. It's about executing them in a very timely manner, right? You can make the right pass, but if it's a split second too late and you're just not as sharp of a passer, well, that's the type of thing that can break your connectivity from an offensive standpoint. These are the nuances that I consider at the end of the day. But again, Lindy can do a lot of these things in the motion offense. And he played well with the starting unit. They got out to a 14-10 start. Given some of the woes that they've had to begin the games, this is really good news. Unfortunately, Lindy Waters got injured after an incredible block at the rim, but he landed wrong and hyperextended his knee. He'll probably be out for a little while, praying for a speedy recovery. And now the Warriors are down both Melton and Lindy Waters. So in the second half of this game, guess who starts as shooting guard with Lindy Waters gone? Pods. It's either somebody in this organization is listening to me, or the coaches who help Steve Kerr decide the order of hierarchy for this team at that spot are seeing the same things that I am seeing. So if you want to argue with me about some of these decisions that I feel like the team should make, well, ultimately, I think you need to go and argue with the coaches, because ultimately they're the ones who are doing it. I'm just simply calling it before it actually happens. Goodness gracious, I'm so full of myself today. By the way, Trace has also been looking better and better, looking more comfortable in that starting role as the center next to Draymond. Their defense has been staying connected and they've been playing really well. He's been playing really well. And in order for him to play well, the guy at the shooting guard spot has to be a secondary playmaker who can diversify what they do offensively. This is why I don't love the idea of Moody starting, because he's more about himself and all he's looking to do is just launch, kind of like Klay Thompson, right? While not staying connected enough defensively and obviously not staying connected enough offensively because he doesn't see the passes as quickly as he should. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Moody has the potential to put it all together at some point. Maybe as soon as next season. These things, when it's a matter of how a player fundamentally plays, it's not easy to fix. You know, these things take years to develop if you come into the league as somebody who doesn't have handles, who doesn't have playmaking ability, who doesn't have the ability to see the floor completely, this kind of thing. So it's okay to be patient. They have signed him long term. This season, obviously, he's not a $13 million player. That kicks in next season. So it's okay to be patient with Moody. I think he has the potential to be a championship caliber piece, but that takes time. It is not easy to be that good that quickly in your career. He's still a very young man. And like I say, he has that potential. But again, this is about fit, not about the fact that he can score. And by the way, I feel like Pods played a much better game tonight, just much more composed in general. 11 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 4 for 4 from the free throw line, 3 of 6 from the field, 1 for 4 from the 3-point line, which is still better than his season average of 20% from the 3-point line. I'm telling you, that has no choice and nowhere to go but up. This guy, by the end of the season, I predict that he's going to be at least back to about 35% or so from the 3-point line because of this poor start. I think from a long-term standpoint, he can certainly get to something like 40% from the 3-point line. To me personally, the first 10 games, that is a mirage. That is not who Potts is. He's been wearing that mask. It's been throwing him off. It's okay, guys. He'll be okay. Rough game for Jonathan Kuminga. I kind of predicted that he would have a rough game because the Grizzlies are a big team. They have great protection around the rim. And these are the types of teams and these are the types of games where Kuminga tends to struggle. And we've seen that last season as well. And that part of it hasn't changed. I kind of worry about what if the Warriors end up facing a team like the Grizzlies come playoffs? How playable would he be in a series like that? It concerns me. From a long-term standpoint anyway. But everybody has rough games, nobody's perfect, and as the season continues, he'll bounce back and be able to play better against most other teams. Now, some nights it's just not your matchup. Even for Trace, there are going to be some nights where it's not going to be his matchup. It is what it is. But the one thing that I absolutely loved that Steve Kerr did in this game is that, well, if you look at the box score, you'll ultimately see that Kuminga was a +2. And for a lot of it, he was like covering in the +5 range. And that's because he was well protected defensively with Draymond at center and Kyle Anderson at power forward. This is what I've been pleading for the team to do to ensure that you protect Kuminga so that you don't have to overexert him and ask him to do more than he's capable of. It is so important to identify what a player can and cannot do so that you can build a proper lineup that can cover for these lapses and such. And so even if Kuminga is not playing well offensively, they're still structurally sound defensively. So what I'm saying is even if they go on offensive lulls, they can still also hold the other team and continue to play great defense. That's the formula. Steve Kerr, with the guidance of Terry Stotts and Jerry Stackhouse, has been the best version of himself that I have seen in a very, very long time. Remember when I made that video earlier in the season talking about Steve Kerr and how him being really good for the most part is a huge indicator for where this team can go. You know, I'm just blown away by what I'm seeing. I predicted it, and yet to see it come to fruition in this manner, the Warriors scored 123 points tonight. Nobody scored more than 18 points. Buddy Hield led the team with 18 points. The next best scorer was Moses Moody with 14, and then there were 3 other guys, Steph, Wiggins, and Draymond, who scored 13 points apiece. Just every game, this team finds at least 5 guys in double figures. The balance has just been unbelievable, incredible from an offensive standpoint. And again, as long as they continue to put out lineups that can protect whatever defensive lapses or defensively deficient players, as long as you protect those guys as much as possible in the front court, it's going to be okay. 10-2. Beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.